Okay, it's 3:33. How's that? Some out there in a group of 333 would know what they've got to say as they believe they train and help out. Now, I want to talk about leadership and real facts and why it is the now all around the world. Can't get any real facts than that, eh? Debate me on it. It's happening. Now, let's talk about it. Leadership. Now, when it comes to leadership, it's like a parent. Parent, leadership, same thing, right? Good parent would be a good leader. You see, the better parent, the better the leader, right? When it comes to how they raise their kid. The better the genetics, the easier it is to raise. So you've got genetics, and you've got education, right? Some people are born with Down syndrome, genetics, right? And so if you get good genetics and good education, you get TV builders, right? That know how it functions, not just know how to operate it, like everyone else, like vehicles. Right? You get to know the basics. You can't all be mechanics because to get a professional at something takes a lot of work, and your brain can only hold so much for so long too. It works in mysterious ways with short term, mid term, and long term, right? And how it can program it into it takes a while. As you see, humans live a long time, and they take a long time, 18 years, before they can be by themselves, right? Than anything else on this planet. As we've talked about, humans don't really fit in. I guess that's why we destroy everything than everything else. Now, I want to talk about leadership. Now, overseas, we have countries that have one leader pretty much. The leader gets advice, but it's up to him. He always makes it. No one can tell him not to do it. He gets his advice and then he does what he does, right? He goes, all right, we're going to make this happen, this happen, this happen, this happen. No one can stop me. Right? You have those leaders. Then you have the Western culture that has leaders that are elected by the collective, right? It's all the people. So whatever happens in the Western area, it's happening because of all the people. They collectively put themselves in that shoes, right? And so when they screw up, they've collectively screwed up. So when a country goes down, they actually are all part of it. They can't whinge, the Western world, at all, because they collectively elect a person who screwed it up with them, right? So that's them. And then you have other people that got dominated. Usually when it comes to these one world leaders, if you look around the world, every single one of them except Hitler and certain other little leaders, there's not many, but they're not doing too well, got the power by force, by the country fucking up so bad that the army comes in, takes over, and then decides to keep it and has one leader, commander, right? That's how they run. And they can fix a country in 20 years, roughly. China was not much. Go back in time a little bit and then find out when China was something and everyone needed to buy China, right? They fixed it in 20 years. You know why? Because there wasn't too many chefs all arguing about what needed to be done. Right? There wasn't too many chefs that couldn't get along. Right? They can't get along. If they can't get along, all these great chefs, you're better off having one. But if you can't have one, then aren't you better off having none? Right? Like they say, if it's just going to get worse. That's how we see our society. Every now and then we get it right for 4 years. Right? And then someone gets out because of they look good, like a superstar advertising a movie. Right? That movie gets advertised the best with the coolest shots. Besides being a good movie, it will get seen more, right? So it'll get voted in as the top movie, right? That's what happens in the Western world. Everything's all about actors, right? And if you think all actors are cool and you look up to these certain areas, you're going to end up getting these actors leaders, true? And then you're going to have to put up with what you all really collectively are. Here in Australia, we're struggling in making things and we get everything from China because roughly 20 years ago we decided when China got good, so it's been about 40 years, right, since China was down, right, we decided that it'd be best for all Australians to be office workers. It's better to be an office worker, you get good pay, we don't need to build and dig holes as that's for the lower countries. That's what they used to say pretty much over the news and how they used to laugh and carry on about how Australia's going good. But Australia's not going good now, is it? Australia didn't go too good by shutting down all its factories and necessary areas, right? What's priorities? Why do parents say you got to get your priorities straight? Why is it at school they teach us all these things, but in the real world it's not true? Do you believe that kids would want to be taught something, but then look at the real world and go, don't tell us that. Don't tell us that it's right, because we know in the real world we can't use it. It's a little bit like religion, why they have their own bubbles. A little bit about our world, but it's not a real world as we don't collectively use it. The real world is what we collectively all think and get along with, isn't it? We don't all get along with religion. We all get along with laws and bullying and making those laws and tariffs, don't we? Right? So when it comes to getting it right, you have to start from the kids. So the parents are teaching the kids at the moment, and the kids are learning, and they go, well, why should we learn all this? And you're not doing it. Is that because you fucked up? So we got fucked up parents, and now have to teach some kids what main priorities are. So before they run off and do rockets and get the coolest new better graphics TV, they need to make sure collectively around the world, as they get materials off each other, and that's how we do things together, make sure they got housing and basic stuff. The coolest stuff is to get cool houses that the nature can't tear down, that's cheaply, that can be manifested really quickly, right? That's strong. Stuff like that, instead of taking the easy way out and scabbing off nature all the time. That's what humans are. We're here with all this cool stuff, and yet we mostly still scab off nature. Right? Forests are still going down. Every year around the world has gotten worse. Debate me on that. Every year around the world, it's getting worse and worse and worse with our resources, isn't it? That's because we waste our resources too at the moment because of money. We crap cheap shit that we throw away and use just because it can be made and made money in this system. And the system can't even make it right. At the moment, if Australia tries to compete with making things, it can't, because other countries have settled to get less and work differently. We're already screwed when it comes to competing. If you want to compete, that means you need to do more work with less money. You cannot compete against cheap competition, right, and want to have more money with less work. Isn't that what we hear in Australia's people saying? Let me know how that works out on paper. Let me know if things that work out on paper can actually work out in theory. We all know that. Doesn't mean it works out there, doesn't mean it's practical. Right? Let me know when people really get their shit together. The only time I've ever seen it is when COVID came out, Australia woke up and were nice and quiet and got things done. Is that because they were scared? Does it take fear? That's why there's domination, isn't there? Just humans need to think about how they act and be themselves, because when they do that, it helps other people who are the wolves to find out what they need to do. You get scared, you do this, you see? There's a little baby playing around. Aren't they so cute? Gotta get a little sand pit up for them. They all like to sit here and watch them play. Look, she's going, look at me, come and get me. She's putting her bum up. Boop, 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 boop. Yeah, and he's like, ooh. Actually, that's the male, right? I got it wrong. So that's the male. Go look at me, do it like a chick thing would do, right? To get the woman. She's like, oh, that's so cool. It's a little bit like males singing and dancing, right? She's like, oh. Now here's another thing. I'm a realistic person. When it comes to humans advancing, it takes physical effort, right? And to get physical effort, you need a good mind and wanting to do it. So you need another thing, like a woman, right? That's why everything has balance. They doesn't go through similar things, but can be there in another way to help keep and relax and calm. Have knowledge, maybe can have time to read knowledge, to do such things. That's why you see a lot of people when it comes to shrinks and stuff like that. They're all mostly women, right? As they're good to talk and speak. It's what their brains develop to do too. It doesn't mean they can use their speech and manipulation to get what they want. Because if you look back in history too, I'm happy to debate about how women manipulate in the background with their speech. Because a smarter brain, more speech, and more time to research can manipulate. So everything in the end, to be decent out there, needs a heart. My main priority, if I was teaching kids, is to teach them to make sure they got a heart. Because if they fuck up, they can still keep going because they'll have a heart and they won't use bulliness and greed and envy to keep things secret and they'll feel shameful. These people who have greed and envy, they don't like shame, right? We got to teach them that shame's a good thing, and then it doesn't happen very often. It's like a mistake, right? But you have to go through it and pass the test. Otherwise, you may just be quiet, and quiet people that don't speak because of shame is not a good thing, right? It's best to release it, right? If it's something shameful that people would find not good and you haven't harmed any other person, when it comes to laws out here, it's more don't harm people than how we harm animals. Of course we harm animals, we eat them, right? It's different rules. A little bit similar to when it comes to shame, isn't it? Right? So if you've done something with an animal, you've done a lot of animal killing and stuff like that, I guess you can keep that guilt to yourself between you and God, right? But anything that you've done onto humans, that's our collective test we need to sort out. Isn't that true? Mostly and when it comes to animals, we still have human protective rights, of course, right? But you know what I'm talking about. You don't have to confess everything when you go to heal. You don't have to teach these people to be constant confessors. There's a fine line between pleasure and pain, and there's a fine line between lying and a righteous lie. So really in the end, can we teach old dogs new tricks? You can, but that's if the dog gets rid of its shame of the old ways of it thought it was right. Right? And a lot of them can't. It doesn't want to. It wants to believe what it was doing was okay. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I thought I'd have a little blab because I can use this stuff in the future as I believe I'm right about the things I say. When it comes to the priorities of the world, they're complaining about all these small things. We're getting left behind and we're failing them the most at the moment, definitely to China, who have one leaders and get things done a little bit more differently than us when it comes to when that leader knows what's right, get it done, it gets done. Here we know what's right, it can take years to get done because other people believe it's not, they're not going to get a benefit, envy and greed comes in and that can cause a lot of problems. People paying people not to do things and stuff like that and hiding that in the background so it's hard to find. Right? There's lots of ways of doing things like that in such a society. Anyway, have a good one and see you later. And I hope that when it comes to the education, the main priorities is connection and heart. If you want to live in a world together with plenty of plenty. And it doesn't mean you have heart, doesn't mean you can't kill. Heart means you use science and your logic and you take your time as you don't want to buck up. It's part of heart. See you later.